Hi, I'm Dana, and this is a very impromptu, no notes, just me talking kind of video. So if you don't like that, please leave. But yeah, I wanted to talk about how I'm finding it difficult to talk about myself and my life in social situations and social settings when I'm meeting people or even with friends. And I want to know if other people are dealing with this and if other people feel like this. And especially because it's one of those things that I don't think is directly caused by being autistic, really. It's a social thing, so it definitely does tie into being autistic. And I also think, as we're gonna get into, a lot of it's because of trauma, and I don't think I'd have as much trauma if I wasn't autistic, but lots of people have trauma who aren't autistic that's just been done to them and that's just happened to them and so on and so forth. So I don't feel like it's purely the autism. I feel like this could be a more vastly relatable video, essentially. We hope. So this is going to be a bit dark, but as always you have my cheery disposition to keep you upbeat throughout. So when you're in social situations, shit about your life comes up, doesn't it? People talk about themselves, you talk about stories, situations, things you've experienced. That's just sort of how social interactions work a lot of the time. Unless you're specifically talking about a movie or this music, you're sort of talking about yourselves and chatting. And I've noticed that I've started going very quiet during those situations and not talking so much or retelling the same handful of stories I have that aren't traumatic, because otherwise I just don't know what to say. Because for me, if someone's telling childhood stories, I've over the last couple of years realised that a lot of the childhood stories I thought were really funny are actually very traumatic, and other people will literally be like, oh my god, I'm sorry that happened to you, when I thought it was a funny childhood story, because it's stories that my family have repeatedly told of my childhood that they all laugh about. And it turns out that as I originally thought when they upset me in the first place, they're actually horrible, but they've been put on to me as they're fun childhood stories. So a lot of talking about my childhood and growing up is out the window, because it was kind of traumatic and horrible, and a lot of the time it kills the mood and people are telling me that they're sorry that happened to me. You know, my later childhood come high school experience kind of time, again, fucking horrible. My parents were both heavily depressed, which then led to me being heavily depressed, but they were so depressed that they didn't give a fuck and didn't do anything to help me. School was horrible. I was being severely bullied. It was just an overall really bad time, and I was depressed as shit. I was going to school, going home and spending my time on Tumblr. I wasn't going out, I wasn't seeing people, I wasn't experiencing things as such as a teenager. And when I did, it was very much oh yeah, going out and getting really drunk on the beach as a 15-year-old and then waking up somewhere in my own vomit. It's again not stories that you want to tell for a fun time and to have people get to know you, because that's not the kind of person I am. These aren't the things that I want people to, you know, I'm okay with people knowing them about me. Obviously I put it on the internet, but it's very different to be you have consensually clicked on this video and decided to hear this stuff versus just being at a party and murdering the mood. I got out of high school and immediately met a man that was 5 years older than me. I was 16, he was 21, and my home life, as you can imagine from what I just said, was fucking horrible. So I moved out as quickly as I could, and the easiest way for me to do that was to move out with him. So I then spent the next, I was in a relationship with this man for 8 years following that, but I lived with him for 9. I lived with him for a whole extra year after we'd broken up, and it was fucking horrible, and that was the most recent period of my life until currently, essentially. You know, even just from the age difference, you can tell that wasn't going to be the healthiest and nicest of relationships. Throw in that he was an abusive asshole, and it becomes when other people mention their exes and tell fun nice stories about their exes, I don't really have those. I was gonna say many, I can't think of any. You know, every day out that we had together ended with him shouting at me and me crying, or me getting upset from him being mean, and then him being I wasn't even mean, you're just ruining the day. You know, our time together was fucking horrible. I just looked after the house and did everything I could to make him happy while he told me that it wasn't good enough. And for a good bit of it, I was still a literal child. You know, and that's really dark and traumatic shit to bring up to random people to get to know me. It's really dark to bring up in response to someone else's fun story about their ex. But I don't have anything else. I don't, if you know, if I'm not telling a story that then relates to their point or whatever, I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to say. I don't know where the conversation's supposed to go. And that's why I say some part of it is being autistic, because I'm sure there's other people that can figure out how to like twist it into a funny social story or tell this like other thing that happened to them, or wouldn't have found themselves in these situations in the first place, you know? Like, I tried to break up with him like a year into the relationship, if that, and he just sort of came back, and I was like, oh, right, well, I don't really know how to, you know, I've told him I want to break up and we haven't, so another 7 years of this. You know, there's definitely some things that just wouldn't have happened to a non-autistic person there, but they happen to me, and now I've got to deal with them. And like, it's not that I don't want to talk about them, because obviously, like, I talk about them here a lot. I talk about a lot of deep, heavy, dark shit here, because my therapist dropped me. Like, I couldn't afford her anyway, to be fair, but she fully dropped me, so I don't have anywhere else to talk about this stuff, if it's not to friends. And alongside, like, feeling like talking about the majority of my life is just trauma dumping, I also want to feel like my friends, like, I don't know, it's just, it doesn't feel like it's like appropriate things to tell people about. Like, as much as I don't mind people knowing, and as much as like the people around me do, like, you know good parts of what ever happened, it just doesn't feel appropriate to talk about. It doesn't feel like there's ever an appropriate time and an okay time, and it means that a lot of the time I just don't have anything to say. And it definitely like impacts being able to like be a part of the group and be able to make friends and be able to like further form like solid relationships with people, you know, because like I just don't speak, like I don't know what to say. And I do speak. I have formed like solid, nice relationships with people. I have really good friends at the minute, like by far the best friends that I've ever had in my life. And you know, like, I'm sure they would be fine to listen to me if I brought it up and said like, hey, I need to talk about this because it was like really hard for me and I don't know where else to talk about it. But that's not so much the issue. It's just like not having anything else to talk about. And I don't want to be the person that's just constantly bringing up traumatic stuff and killing the mood and killing the vibe and, you know, just constantly talking about the horrible stuff that's happened to me. Because when I've met those people, I've been like, shit, has anything nice ever happened to this person? Like, Jesus Christ. You know, I don't want to be that person, but I am just like, good things haven't happened to me. And it's such like, it sounds like such a victim complex, and I'm not trying to like victimize myself and be like, oh my god, everything's so bad for me, but like things have not been good for me at like any point in my life up until the last like 4 months. So what am I meant to do? What is there to talk about? What can I say? I fucking can't. There's nothing, you know. And even in situations where it does feel okay to bring up and talk about, I feel like I've almost like there's definitely some friends I've got that I have gone into trauma like with them and like learned like, being neurodivergent, there's just some people you fucking meet where like you've got the same trauma and you bond over it and you talk about it all. It's just what happens. Like, I've absolutely got people that I can just like trauma dump to, but that almost feels like misleading them or like telling, like, I don't feel a connection to the person that I was in those situations, you know? Like, I was going purely off of like survival and fawning and doing what I had to like get through life and stay alive and be a person, you know. Like, that's not how I would react if I had time to think about things. Like, the person that I was just having to survive, and I know that I'm a handful of months away from that, but I feel like such a different person, you know. Like, I've read a lot of stuff about like the nervous system and the body keeps score and all of that stuff, and I was sort of like, it seems a bit hokey to me, but like I feel like I've like felt my nervous system relax since I've moved in here and settled down and everything. Like, I feel like a different person, so it feels like I'm talking about someone else almost when I talk about this shit. And I know that I'm not. I'm dealing with the trauma of it all. I know that it's not, but the person that I have been up until like a few months ago isn't the person that I want to like represent me, and the person that I want like necessarily people in my life to like understand and judge and know me from, you know. But like, that's me, that's been my life, that's been who I've been. Like, there's nothing else there to talk about. I don't have some like alternate version of events where I can be like, oh well, this thing was really nice. Like, I don't really got them, they're not really there. Like, even when my friends are talking about their families and parents and things, like, even though all of my friends are like queer or neurodivergent in some way, so like a lot of us don't have like the family dynamics and whatever, a lot of us like can relate to each other. Even then, it's like, I've cut my mother off, my dad's dead, and my brothers were both really fucking abusive and horrible to me. Like, they physically abused me for a good part of my childhood. They were very like they were 8 and 9 years older than me and thought nothing of like twisting my arm up my back until I was crying, or just straight up punching me, you know? Like, I don't have like family stories to tell or like fond things to say about my family members for the most part. Like, even with my dad was like a reasonably decent parent when I had him, but he died when I was 18. And from like the age of like, Christ, like 9 to when he died, he'd been real fucking depressed and spent most of his time just sat in his study. It was just a room with a fucking desk and his bed and shit. He just sat in his study playing mahjong, you know, for like years. Like, I don't have fun stories to tell of him except for when I was like very, very young. And even then, a lot of the time it's like, oh, I had so much like anxiety and panic and fear as a very young child that my dad came up with this whole thing where he'd like pull a fairy out of his pocket and be like, okay, I'm gonna put her on your shoulder and she's gonna protect you. And it's like, yeah, that's sweet, but why was I like having that degree of fear and anxiety going upstairs as like a 7-year-old? Like, what the shit? Yeah, and there's also so many things that like I've laughed off and learned to just live with and been like, yeah, that happened. Combined with the fact that like, one of the things that I think makes me a reasonably decent friend is that I have no fucking idea what's normal. Like, I've had so many friends at various points that have been like, oh, I do this weird thing, I don't know if you've noticed. And it's like, I haven't noticed. I might have noticed you do the thing, but I have such little grasp of what's normal that I've just been like, oh, they do that. Like, it doesn't connect in my mind as like, that's a weird thing to do. People don't normally do that. I'm just like, I have no fucking idea what normal people do, so I'm just going to assume that that's a normal thing that normal people do, you know? So, especially with like family stuff and like life and being alive and the things that I've done and the things that I've lived, I don't know which ones are completely normal and which ones are completely fucking batshit mental. So there's been a lot of times that I've brought up stories that I thought were just like a normal thing that everyone's been through, thinking it's going to be a relatable time, and everyone's been like, whoa, what the fuck, we need context to this. And there's just, you know, like, being autistic, so many social interactions are already very awkward, and it's just such an added layer of awkwardness and discomfort and feeling like I don't belong and like I don't know how to socialise and like I'm unable and inept, like, when it comes to interacting with people. And it's all kind of a lot and horrible and scary, and I don't like it. To end on a good note though, like I say, the last 4 months, like, I moved into this lovely room that you see here in like, technically on February 8th, I think it was, and shit's really gone up for me since then. Like, it's been my saving grace, because there's been a fair few times that like we've had a party here, I've been out with my housemate and some of his friends to go clubbing. Like, there's been a few times that I've like met a new group of people and been like, I need to not make these people think that I'm a fucking freak because they're my housemate's friends and I can't like fuck this up, you know? And it's an absolute fucking saviour that things have finally like gotten better with this situation, because it means that when people like bring things up and like want to know about me, I can be like, well, things have been pretty shit up until recently, but, and then I can dive into like, moving in here has been great and I've met all these people, I've made all these new friends, and we did this thing, we did this other thing, and I'm having a great time and everything's good. And I can just focus on like this very brief like last 3 months over like the rest of my life. And I kind of wish that I didn't have to do that. It would be nice to have had like other good points in life, but you know, I'll take what I can get. At least it's come now. So that's the happy thing to round this video off on, I guess. I'm shaken by the state of my hair. I've run out of mousse, I've run out of conditioner, I've run out of money. So this is my natural, completely like, this is just my hair. Which I do think proves that the curly girl method thing works, because my hair didn't have any curl to it in high school at all, it was just frizz. And now, as you can see, as much as it is mostly frizz, there is some like, I have curly hair. Complete tangent away from the video, I'm sorry, I always wanted curly hair and it turns out I always fucking had it, and my parents just left me to get severely bullied for how my hair looked, even though they both had curly hair, and used to make jokes of like, oh, it's so strange that you don't have curly hair, as though I fucking did. We're getting at this, see, you see what I mean? Yeah, I've been rocking in this chair for a little while now, so I'm gonna stop doing that and actually round up the video. So it'd be lovely if you wanted to follow me. I love getting subscribers, love getting followers. It's always a good time here. You can also, if you don't want to subscribe here, you can also follow me on TikTok and on Instagram and on Twitter. They're the only places, I think. If you've got money, I don't know how to do like the donations bit, okay, still, like I don't enjoy it. I came up with like a sort of script that I've been following, but I've forgotten it off the top of my head right now. But I do have a Patreon and also a Ko-fi if you wanted to put some monetary contributions towards my content. And there's also YouTube memberships, which is my favourite one, because you get a little mushroom that I say I drew the mushroom. I came up with like the idea, it's my mushroom, like the little foot mushroom thing is my thing, but Winter, my friend, drew it for me because they can actually draw and make things look good. So I'm like, I drew it, but I didn't really, but they did copy like my outline and stuff, so I kind of did, but they mostly did it. But you get one of those next to your name if you become a YouTube member, and I think it's a lot of fun. So if you wanted to, you can do that. Yeah, but for now, whoever you are and wherever you are, what do I say? But for now, whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you're having a lovely morning, evening, day, afternoon, week, month, year, and I will see you again in a couple of days.